Look how the stars turn on. Look how the stars turn on. When I hold you close. When I hold you close. When I hold you close. The stars turn on.
Hello and welcome to Season 4, Episode 18 of the Press Box in association with the unit. So we're back after a break and hopefully looking up the table after that brilliant 1-0 win over Sligo a little under a fortnight ago. So in tonight's show, we're going to look briefly back at that game and ahead to Friday's visit of Waterford to Oriel Park, and we're going to assess the first half of our season. We're also going to look back on a brilliant Dundalk FC Golf Classic which took place at Dundalk Golf Club last Thursday, and in that James actually caught up with a few people in attendance on the day. So first, good to be back. Actually, even talking to you a minute ago, I couldn't even remember kind of where we were or what was even happening, but we've obviously Waterford now on Friday, and a tough game to kind of come back to. And I suppose as well, they're in fourth place, going to they're in potential Europe. I just looked at their form table; it's not too bad, but like again, as even a few of the questions and stuff people asking about people coming in and out and stuff, I think we've guys leaving, we're guys coming in and stuff, and I don't know is kind of the team together that we're putting together. It's another kind of hit and hope. Maybe we win 3-0, maybe we lose 3-0, but I think the form of beating Sligo and them being so close to us, I think that's going to stand to us. Hopefully the lads have kind of with their holiday or whatever, that they've kind of done a bit of extra training, got to know the manager, the systems, etc. And as I said, hopefully when Waterford come to town, maybe a bit more clicks and we do start moving up the table.
Yeah, look, I think the transfer market's going to become very important, and obviously some of that's already kicked off. We've obviously signed Scott McGill this week ourselves, but I think we'll probably deal with that separately, just from the point of view that you could sign Messi tomorrow and he can't play till the 1st of July. So in relation to Waterford, I think that doesn't make too much of a difference. So we are as we are kind of for Waterford. It's for me anyway, it's a difficult first game back because they've been probably one of the surprise packages of the season. Now, if you look at the league table, they're sitting in fourth at the moment, level on points with Shamrock Rovers, and I'm sure if you had offered any Waterford fan being the same number of points at the break as Rovers did have taken it, and geez, we probably would have taken it. I'm sure Derry Shells would have taken it. So they've had a fairly magnificent season so far, and like they've probably, for me anyway, two of the standout players in the league. Like you look at Padge Hammond, 11 goals in 21 matches, player of the month. He's been sensational. Melissa Asamoah, we know only too well about. He got a hat-trick against us down there last month. I believe he's a doubt for the game. He's been out with a slight injury, but maybe the break works for him in that regard. But yeah, look, definitely not an easy game. The form's been a bit patchy before the break. Like they lost 3-0 away to Derry and 1-0 at home to Shells. Either side of that good win over Sligo 4-1, but to be fair, I don't think it's any shame to lose to Derry or Shells at the moment. So look, again, it's all on us. Like our home form has been decent, you would say. Like, I'm not going to massively dwell on that Sligo game because it feels like forever ago now, and I want to forget about it almost. But it's kind of been the story of our season at home in terms of we were probably well on top, deserved the win. Maybe you want more of a cutting edge, but at that, good to see Darrell Horgan get off the mark for the season. I was up with John Daly on Monday, and he was speaking about how he is facing his strikers, and he thinks Jamie Gullen can score goals. He thinks even Cammy Elliott, he says he's doing it in training. Owen Kenny probably just needs that first one when it comes, but very much pointing out that it can't just be on them either. Like, so, like, for example, and I would have referenced it on our last podcast, Darrell Horgan's far too good a player to be taking this long into the season to get off the mark, but he'd acknowledge that himself. And look, now that he's done it, maybe they'll follow. Ryan O'Kane has goals in him. I think Robbie Matten's on the way back. We were all excited about him in pre-season. He's definitely someone that can chip in. And look, again, and we'd maybe talk about it later, but you probably do need to add in that attacking sense, and I think John Daly would be aware of that. But again, it's another good win. It was another clean sheet. I don't think Sligo put a glove on us. Sean Malloy, just to give him a mention, came in home debut and a clean sheet. It's 8 in a row now. We can actually equal a club record if we keep a clean sheet on Friday. It's already a league record, but there was I think 1986, there was 9 in a row at home. 4 of them were League Cup matches. So there's a league record on the line if you can keep that clean sheet, and it'd be a nice way to sort of bounce back after the break. If you could win, certainly, but not an easy game given the form that Waterford have been in and the attacking threat to pose. I know I mentioned Asamoah's been out, but the likes of Pattison, Connor Parsons, others, Ben McCormick sort of come into the fray. John Daly obviously knows plenty about him from his time at Pats. Spoke very, very highly of him the other day when we were talking, and more or less said that, he's just probably a bit unlucky that he'd Chris Forrester ahead of him at Pats. But again, they're a side who seem well drilled. We all know about Keith Long, good manager, and we'll get nothing easy against them. It goes a 0-0 draw the last time they were in Oriel. Haven't actually won in Oriel since 2021, June 2021, for ironically the first game back after the break. So hopefully that's not an omen, but look, good to be back. You do miss it in a weird way too. And I know the Euros is going on, but having watched a bit of England earlier, it can only be better.
Yeah, I think again, not to dwell on Waterford, but I do think the likes of Paj Amond and stuff, like even looking at the table, they've scored 30 goals this season, and obviously we've just scored 13. So, I think even if we win and keep a clean sheet in Oriel Park against these boys, like, is that no, only Derry have scored more than them, but so they're the second highest scorers in the league. So as I said, Amond's on form, so they're not a team that isn't, but however, they've also conceded a similar-ish amount of goals to us. So we've 28, they've 22, so it's 25 even. So it's not, they concede as well as score, but I just think if injuries and stuff, and I don't know if you can update on any of the injuries, like Gullen and stuff, or what we have with some of the lads left on loan and stuff. But I think having a solid kind of 11 coming in, my only fear of all these things when we talk with these guys coming in is, even in fairness, I think the likes of even the guy at Drogheda that you were referencing that could be potentially coming in. If we get any of these guys, they're all still new guys, and I think, are we all of a sudden, reblooding and stuff like that? It's just such a funny thing. All of a sudden we could kick off, but I don't know. I'd like to see a kind of solid 11 against Waterford of kind of experience and no kind of. Although nobody can actually play, so that's kind of an irrelevant point. Yeah.
Hill, for example, who has signed, he's eligible. So it's a slightly separate argument. We do have we're going to be bouncing back because it is relevant. But I think it's no secret a goalkeeper's maybe on the cards as a potential incoming. Ross Monroe, I was up with John Daly on Monday, and at that stage, Ross Monroe's still touch and go whether he'd be back. So Sean Malloy could be playing again. Very good chance there's another keeper potentially in place for the Rovers game after that, but that's down the line. But just for Friday, it could very well be Malloy. Gullen is probably out, is what I'm hearing. Robbie Mahan has had another, he was actually on the bench in the Sligo game, didn't feature obviously, but another fortnight's going to help him. He should be probably realistically on the bench again. I think Kunis Ustam brings back in training, so it's another option in your midfield. Probably the big breaking news from detrimental to your season perspective was obviously Sunderland put out that Zach Johnson's probably, he is going back, let's be honest. He's still around for the next couple of matches anyway. He'll go back after the Rovers game. So that's a blow, but short term, you have him for Friday. So, Mayo is a bit of a doubt as well. I don't think he's trained a little much, but it is kind of as you were for the Sligo game in many regards, and look, not a lot of options he has in terms of like divvying it up, but equally it was a good performance against Sligo. We probably should have won by more than a goal. We didn't give up a lot, so if you do the same again, it's not bad. And again, like realistically at this stage, like the big plus of the Sligo game was you move 3 points clear of Drogheda, and if you can even they have a difficult game away to Derry on Friday themselves, so hypothetically they lose and you take a point, it's edging further away from that 10th spot, which look, not that long ago you'd have bit the hand of anyone for. So look, the big thing is, I think at the moment, is probably get to that break. I think, again, probably discuss it in more detail, but again, chatting to John, he reckons we could need 7 or 8 players. We've obviously got one in, and I sort of see his logic, because you are going to lose. Well, you've lost effectively your 4 loanees that you had, like Kieran McGuckin, Scott High have already gone. Zach Bradshaw's going, Zach Johnson's going. You've lost George Shelby from the start of the season, obviously, so you're down a keeper. So there's 5, and then you've potentially 1 or 2 going out, which John's made no secret of it. I think they could be Hayden Muller, Louis Ansley. In which case,
is that in a fee for us, as in people coming in, or he's releasing?
Look, I doubt it. It's probably mutual.
Yeah.
Look, at the end of these guys aren't Irish either, so it probably suits them to get back to sort of the UK market, and if there's interest in them. In particularly Louis' case, he hasn't played in a while.
Yeah.
So if you're not playing, you're not happy, but equally the club are better served getting maybe players in that they maybe feel can contribute for the second half of the season. So it's probably mutually beneficial to move a couple on and get it. Who knows if the replacements will be any better, but equally you have to maybe roll that dice, because it probably hasn't worked out for Louis the way maybe he would have hoped, and maybe the club would have hoped. That, like, he's had his moments, don't get me wrong, but I think it's the Shelbourne game, not even the last one, but the previous one. I think it was maybe the Bows game actually up in Dalymount was probably the last time we featured, but I think the Shells game was the last time we started. So you're going back to that's a long time ago now. So he's probably played more minutes for Gibraltar in recent times than he's undoubtedly played more minutes for Gibraltar. So listen, there's 7 if that happens, and if you're looking for 1 in, 1 out for each one, it's 7 new players. Easier said than done getting all that in, but I think it's a funny market, because I think there's not a club in the league not looking for players probably, and yes, when that happens, some will get it right, some will get it wrong, and that goes both ends of the table. Like, I think if someone got a striker in that gets you 8 to 10 goals between now and the end of the season, from a bottom of the table perspective, it shoots you away from relegation. From a top of the table perspective, it probably wins you the league. So, and from that top of the table perspective, obviously there's Europe and all that as well to deal with. So, it's going to be a very interesting sort of few weeks ahead in terms of who comes in, not just to Dundalk, but the league in general. And like, we can't ignore what Drogheda are doing either, because I know you like that's their business in one sense, but they are the team you want to get away from. They've had a pretty desperate run of it pre-break, but they're going to try and strengthen the Walsall connection. What does that mean to them? What can they add? Like I know they've already added a striker before the break that, again can't play this weekend, but will come into contention very, very soon. So it's one of those where if a team, be it they, someone else, can add appropriately, it could be huge because you see the league so far, and we probably should reflect on the first half of the season as a whole. Just and I know it's slightly over the halfway point, but just because we're at the break, like the one thing that is amazing about it is there's nothing predictable. Like you look at, I wouldn't like to be doing an accumulator every week because you'd be unfortunate. I'd say if you were going by, well, this team should win, and even we've been probably a contradiction in that point. Like up until the Sligo game, we've the worst home record in the league. Yet we haven't, we've lost the same amount of games at home as the top three. And it's literally it's coming up now on nearly 4 months or something since we last lost at home. And yet, a lot of draws, admittedly, but again, if you're doing an accumulator, we beat Shamrock Rovers, we probably should have beat Derry, we probably should have beat Chels. If you're doing an accumulator as a neutral, you're probably saying, well, the teams at the top should be beating the team at the bottom. And it hasn't worked out that way. Like even Sligo went to Talca Park a few weeks ago and won.
Yeah.
So it's a mad league, and there's not a lot between top and bottom, I feel. And look, we're probably biggest evidence of that, where you come away from some matches and you're thinking, how are we bottom? But equally, if you can, it's probably one or two players. Like, I mean, I was speaking to someone the other day about Jarvis at Chels and the impact he's had. It's like if you can add a Jarvis, if you can add a goal scorer, like you were talking about Paul Gammon there earlier. It's very interesting that the three top scorers in the league are all sort of at the tail end of their careers. Like you've Houben, Hammond, and Aaron Green's actually did in number 3 in that regard. Like someone probably needs to take the bull by the horns from a younger perspective. I don't know, Johnny Kenny's done all right. To be fair, Jimmy Cullen's return of 5 isn't too bad, but it's crying out for, like, the league, I mean, is crying out for that sort of goal. But look, everyone's looking for it. That's the problem.
Right. Well, before we kind of go on about maybe some more kind of ins and outs and stuff and what's even happening within the club, we're just going to listen to an ad from our main sponsor, The Unit.
Today's episode is powered by The Unit, experts in building innovative products for the betting, iGaming, and sports industries. They're the brains behind building innovative products tailored for those who love the game as much as we do. From software that powers up the betting world to platforms that enhance how we engage with our favourite sports, The Unit is leading the charge. The Unit, a winning team that reminds me of the Kenny era Dundalk in their consistency and results. Proud sponsors of the Press Box podcast. Learn more at theunit.dev.
Also, I suppose this week, their opposition analysis was announced as kind of former player Mark Rossiter, which, is a good, in theory, good signing for the club in that sense. But also in that sense, you were down with Daly on Monday. Did he say anything about assistant manager wise, or what's he doing in that sense?
Yeah, so I did ask him that, and he said, look, he has the authority to bring in someone. He says he's not going to rush into it. He's very happy where he is right now. He's obviously had a Graham Kelly, Peter Cherry, and obviously Mark Rossiter now since he's come in. There's, the likes of Liam Burns is still there from the sort of previous regime. So he's happy with that for now. That could happen at any time. But look, I think for what it's worth, I think the Mark Rossiter is a good addition, and nothing to do with, listen, Rossi obviously had a great career here as a player and that, but kind of always liked his reading of the game, but for me, we weren't doing those things before.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, is it the extra 5%? Is the extra 10%? Is it the, when you're playing Waterford, I don't know, does Darragh Leahy like to, well, maybe we should know about Darragh Leahy, but like, does he like to peel to the front post on corners and little tendencies that, might be the difference between why did no one pick him up when he heads in the winner or something like that against you, so it's one of those things, leave no stone unturned. So it's good that it's sort of done. Probably would have been a bit of a bugbear that it wasn't being done in the recent past. But to be fair to John, I think he's had a good start to life as Dundalk manager. He's over the break, he's used it to sort of move into the area. We've now a locally based manager that, I'm not saying that's the be all and end all. That's nothing against the likes of Stephen O'Donnell or even Vinnie Perter, and going back that far, who maybe weren't living in the area. But I do think it's, in an ideal world, that's something you'd have, and he's probably had a decent start overall. You'd have to say, like,
It's a grand start. Yeah.
and it's just about building on it now. But yeah, look, I think he's here for the long haul, and I think if we're honest about it, his goal coming in was to keep us up, and he's on track to do that. Now it's only 3 points that could swing by Friday evening, hypothetically. So there's still a lot of work to be done, but at least now we're sort of looking upward, I think, rather than there was that point of maybe the draw of the game up there, I think, was maybe the low point where everyone thought we're gone here, so that's at least been restored. I think there's been a little bit of, we probably do need to discuss the season to date, and it's been a bit wacky,
it's a funny, I honestly, I know you want to talk about that, but we can't. It's you're going to have a full new management team. You're going to have essentially 7 guys out, 7 guys in. Well, we could talk about what a mess it was, to be fair, most of it.
Yeah, and I don't mean go into it necessarily, but for example, I'm chatting to there's a journalist from Sunderland on to me tomorrow, just to want to talk about Jack Johnson and stuff, and just kind of, I was driving today and I was just pondering in my head, like, what will he ask me, and what do you say and stuff, and you can't ignore the fact, this guy's come in, he's been here about 6 months, he's played under 4 or 5 managers when you factor in Burnsy, Gartland, Stephen O'Donnell, John so he kind of seen it all, in that regard. So it has been bonkers, but I think it's got to the point now of a little bit of stabilization. Even, and I know we're going to talk about it later, and trust me, there's bigger fish to fry, but even things like the Golf Classic, that we're getting to a point where there's progress off the field, and there has been progress off the field, and at points that's been sort of overshadowed by the Noel King thing was a disaster, let's be honest. And the fact you're bottom of the table maybe sort of takes away from the fact that you are doing decent work elsewhere. But I think John Daly was a very good appointment now, because he sort of steadied that ship. He's a cool, seems a cool causer. And first impressions, listen, let's not go too overboard, but has his head screwed on in terms of it, and seems to be managing the players well. And I don't want to sort of overly dwell on the recent past, but you do have to question at times man management that happened or didn't happen, because again, and just when we're referencing Zach Johnson there, and I was talking to someone about this during the week, Zach Johnson didn't actually play till the Waterford game, the first time they visited Oriel, and you're sort of looking at his performances since he's come into the team. He was nominated for Player of the Month. No secret why Hammond won it ahead of him necessarily, but he's won, I think, 2 1903 Supporters Player of the Month awards. Wouldn't shock me if he's in the running for the upcoming one. I know the voting's going on at the moment. And yeah, you're kind of wondering, like, how was he not in the side before that? Because what are they not seeing in training? Because by all accounts, he's been outstanding in training and a class above, and he's looked at on the pitch. You know, you look at someone like, even go back to the Sligo game, Paul Doyle. And listen, you've been particularly critical, but I think we've all criticised Paul Doyle at times, but I also don't feel he was managed right. That, you know, there was times where, like, I think it was Pats. There was something like 4 of the last 5 Pats games he was withdrawn at half time and all this stuff. And I'm not saying you don't sometimes deserve to be hooked or whatever, like, but you know, Hayden Muller, who was alongside him, and they were really, really good in that Sligo game just last time out. Hayden Muller scored an own goal against Shelburne in Talca at the end of March, and he's hooked the next week. Like he's you know, pulled out of the side. Like, yeah, it's unfortunate. No one goes out to score an own goal on purpose. And I just think, what are you doing to someone's morale? They're like, you know, you look at the George Shelby situation, you look at the Ross Monroe situation. I don't think it was well managed, truth be told.
I agree. I no, I do. I disagree because I think, first of all, none of us can make a fair assumption on what O'Donnell and Padge Craig were looking at dealing with. And also at this stage,
okay,
he set this team up. Let me finish. He's set this team up tactically to go do whatever, and ultimately these guys didn't go and do it on the pitch. And so, for argument's sake, ironically, Paul Doyle was pretty good against Sligo. I'd like to give him credit where it's due.
He has been in other matches recently.
But also, again, I've seen him play against St. Moctus, where he was the worst player on the pitch by a mile. That's not Stephen O'Donnell's fault. So I'm sorry. Like now, sometimes in management, maybe players and management, they don't get on the messages, and so it's a fair potential assumption. But ultimately, these players, a lot of them are good enough to, when they cross that white line, that they're tactically inept, they can work as hard. They didn't look like they cared. So I don't put all that on Stephen O'Donnell, saying that he was mismanaging boys and didn't know. I think them boys didn't go and do
but
that.
If you disillusion players, is that why? And I'm not saying that, like, we're probably mixing it, but what I mean is, right, so there's, right, in isolated circumstances, yes, there's a time to pull a player because he's not good enough or not pulling his weight or whatever. But also at times, is there a time to say, do you know what? Listen, lad, I'm giving you 3 matches. And I'm giving you, and whoever it is, like, we've discussed Owen Kenny in recent weeks, and he hasn't got this yet. But at some point, you need to say, right, you know, okay, you could go out on Friday against Waterford and you might not score. You might not even have a chance. But I'm giving you 3 matches to show what you can do. And all of a sudden, and it's very interesting, and I reference Paul Doyle because this is the longest run he's had of consecutive games for Dundalk. There's some of that's unfortunate injuries or whatever, but he's at the club 3 seasons now. And all of a sudden, you give him those sort of back-to-back games, and it's been through necessity. Let's not be, you know, beat around the bush, because we've had injuries to the likes of Dara Keane, Kuhn Ulsterbrink, etc. John Mountney missed a few games. Robbie Benson missed a few games. But all of a sudden now, he looks like one of your first names on the team sheet based on...
That's half our problem, that is. Jesus.
No, but he was excellent against Sligo. He was. So, and do you know what? Sometimes it can click for a player under a certain manager and it does it under others.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the manager's fault. I'm not saying that. But and again, Jamie Gullen, very unfortunate, got the injury. But I remember, was it the Derry game? Gullen had missed a few chances and we drew 0-0, and we definitely should have won that night. And one of the first things John Daly did, and there was other people who would pointed this out to me, but, like, you know, basically keep your head up sort of thing, and, you know, arm round them and look, it's going to come, etc. He goes out then 3 days later and scores twice against Pats. Now, very unfortunate, then he gets injured in the following game, but that's man management. And, you know, was that happening? Like, when you're keeping lads in dressing rooms, when you're Like,
But they weren't doing it from. And at some stage, like, listen, it ended, and that's the way it goes. But I put more blame on the players than Stephen O'Donnell. I know,
and you might be right, you might be
yeah,
wrong, but my point being, I think it's happening now, right?
yeah. Maybe
Like,
it's just in a good role. Like,
I'm
I
not,
think,
I'm
yeah,
not,
but
by
they've
the way,
all nothing to lose here. By the way,
I'm not
Stephen
putting it
O'Donnell was still
all, I'm not
pushing
putting it
for,
all on Stephen O'Donnell either. That's not what I'm saying. But if ultimately, right, if players aren't doing it for you, it's ultimately the manager
yeah,
who loses the job. But like, my point being is, I think he's lifted them a little bit. I think even, to be
yeah,
fair, Brian Gartland, Liam Burns lifted them a little bit from where they were. Give them that little bit of belief. The big test, I think, now is when we go, and hopefully it's not Friday or whatever, but it will happen when we go 1-0, and particularly maybe away from home. When we go 1-0 down, do we toss it in?
yeah,
And you'd like to think not. Very small sort of window, because I think he's like, you can only really go off the Shells game. We went 1-0 away, down away to Shells, and okay, we weren't brilliant that night, not going to pretend we were, but Uncanny hits the bar.
yeah,
We were probably, as much as we probably didn't deserve to win that game, or even maybe get a point, we were in it till the 90th minute. Where at times, particularly away from home, and that like, just because we're playing them on Friday, that Waterford game was a prime example where, to be fair, we did come back from 1-0 down that night, but then they get a goal before half time and we're bet. Get another one just early second half. The heads went down, the belief left. And they're human too, because like, as supporters, we felt at times that,
yeah.
God, where are we getting 2 goals from?
Yeah, I
So
think I'm still just like, I think you're right, and I'm so impressed with the club of the appointment of John Daly. I have to say, I think that, but like, just I'm not here to give them players a free ride just yet. They've hurt me, boy. They've hurt me. So I can't accept what they've done to O'Donnell.
it's not a
Just,
free ride, but you have to work with what you have to work with,
mm,
and you have to try and get more out of them. It's like, look, it's in any workplace. If I take over, you know, going to Tesco tomorrow, right? Are you going to stack shelves better? Are you going to stack shelves quicker? Are you going to make sure the products are there? If if something's out of stock, do you get it? Like, it's the small margins, almost the things that go unseen, that make a place better.
mm,
And you don't even notice it when you come along and you pick up your bottle of water or whatever that's on the shelf. But trust me, if you go in for your bottle of water, there's no water on the shelves, you're like, what's going on here?
yeah,
So it's the little, things. And to be fair, and it's very early days, don't get me wrong, but he's got that reaction.
yeah,
It's just about keeping it going now. And again, making the place sort of, because it is a workplace. And if
mm,
we've all worked in places where, oh God, I have to go in here again.
yeah,
Players should want to go in there, and that's why, I know we're not just going to do it straight away yet, but like things like the Golf Classic, the players look like they were enjoying themselves from what I see. You know, and that's a
Did
one-off
did
thing.
you enjoy yourself, boy?
No, I was horrible,
I've-
but that was some sort of penance. But no, but it's about sort of creating that atmosphere where, yeah, I don't mind going in here, because look, it's in many ways they've the best job in the world. We'd all love to be playing
Mm,
football for a living, as opposed to maybe sitting at an office job all day or whatever. But it's still work, and when it becomes tedious, you know you go through the motions, and you like, listen. While you go through the motions, the world goes on. If a footballer goes through the motions, they're probably not as good as they can be, and therefore the team isn't as good as it can be, and results aren't as good as it can be. And I don't think anyone would argue our results, our performances haven't been, on the
yeah,
whole, as good as it can be this season. There's a better squad. I believe there's a better squad there than what our league position says. But ultimately, there's the old saying, the league table doesn't lie.
yeah.
So
Yeah, they. Yeah, I'm just not that overly enthused guy right now. I still want to see a few runs. Ultimately, as well, I think I know you said Drogheda are going to sign a few guys and stuff. I think their part-timeness slash injuries slash losing players and stuff. I think they will come last, and I don't think they're necessarily the worst team in the league. I think it's just things that have gone against them. So I do think they'll come bottom, good, bad, or indifferent. I think we will push away. And then I suppose it'll actually just depend if he does get things going, that we're not kicking the arse really away from the likes of Sligo. I know Pat's won as well the other day, but we do need a few wins, and I just kind of want to just see how this is going. But I completely agree. It started well, and I think I've no really more comment to make than I just want to see this for a few weeks and see where we go.
and like I said earlier, everyone's looking for people in the window, and some will have a good window, some will have a bad window. As I say, we probably need, and this is his words, like 7 or 8 players. We've got one in Scott McGill. We don't know what he's like. The one thing I will say about him is he's worked with him before at Heart, so he's at least seen him, knows people have worked with him. It's not a shot in the dark off, you know, signing a lad off a YouTube video or something. So we'll see what he's made of in time. There's a lot more business to be done. As I say, we're losing both the Zacks, so there's your left back and your centre back gone. Potentially, as I say, some of the other defensive options in the squad as well, maybe gone out. So, did write today about maybe potentially Hayden Can coming in. Speaking to John, he says he's hoping to get another centre back in on loan that is experienced playing at League Two level. And it's how they click. I think we are going to be looking for a striker. We've one in on trial at the moment. Not saying he'll sign or whatever, but we're looking for it. I think everyone's looking for that, to be fair. But it's about, do you get the right ones? Do you get, the player that's going to make a difference to you? Because I don't think it's massive surgery needed to make that team a little bit better. We're not trying to win leagues here. We're trying to maybe, like, if I said to you now, 1st of November, you'll take 8th place, you probably sign up for that now.
Yeah.
And there's opportunity then. Look, we could be out in the cup first round, but equally you could get a cup run, because, as I say, look, not easy, but you're away to Drogheda. If you get through that, there's either two of Bowes, Rovers, Derry or Pats are out, and there's still a lot of, say, non-league teams in it. No one will fancy coming to Oriel. Don't care if it's Shelburne, Rovers, whoever, Derry. No one will fancy it. And maybe you do get a bit of a run. Maybe you have it becomes the story point of your season. Who knows? But I think right now it's going to be massively crucial, how our window goes as opposed to, say, other clubs. And not just Drogheda. Obviously, I mentioned Drogheda earlier, but like, what does Sligo do? They were sort of dragged back into it a little bit by our win. Pats are still down there, right? Like, this in theory should be too good to go down, but they probably made a decent start to the window. I think Joseph Anang's a good signing. Bozer, thereabouts, again, should be too good to sort of be dragged into it, but they're there. What did they do? So it's not everyone will get it right. Some people assign players that are duds, but someone will sign someone who's pretty good and makes a difference. And maybe, whatever it is. Like, I know Derry signed a couple of players today. Are they the difference to maybe make them title challengers? They're okay. They're title challengers already, but they're the team of the team up there that maybe no one's talking about. It's been all about Shelburne or Rovers.
Yeah.
And yet Derry's is hanging around, probably flattered to deceive in a certain extent, but they're there. They could win it.
I was also looking just at fixtures and stuff. So we've 21, so we've 15 games left. How have Bows only played 19 games? Like Pats of
It,
23, Derry of 23.
the games called off for internationals, the Estonian players that they released.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So even a kind of few points for them, but because I was like, Jesus, they're actually 8, but they've played a lot less
The
games.
other thing is, and like, look, we've in theory games over hands on other clubs as well above us, like Pats, but not everyone can win the games in hand. You know,
Yeah,
that's the thing. I think definitely one of Bo's games in hand against Rovers. So, you know, it matters. And then look, I don't think we actually play. I know we play Rovers next after Waterford, but we've a double header with Drogheda in and around those European games. So we don't actually play a European club. Whereas, like, for example, Bows play Rovers in the Cup the same weekend and it's on the back.
yeah,
We're playing in Europe and, you know, maybe catch them on the hop. Like, it's probably not necessarily a factor for us as much, but
yeah.
how far do any club go in Europe remains to be seen. And does it distract them? Does it not even from our perspective, but all of a sudden do, like, I always talk and it sticks in my memory, like we lost to the likes of Galway and Bray in 2016, teams who were struggling. And okay, that puts a blow to you, but at the other end of the table, you know, you're probably looking at, right, if Drogheda, Sligo, someone else down there is going to a Rovers, a Shells, a Derry, and you're probably thinking, well, hopefully the Derry, Shells, Rovers beat them. Maybe they catch them on the hop, and it, you know, at the end of the day, as I say, as good as our end of the break was, we could be back bottom on Friday. Hopefully not, but
Yeah.
it's a feasible possibility. It's, you know, you're far from out of the woods yet.
We're going to chat about the golf classic, but we also just did want to point out about the club that there is limited bookings still available now for the 24 Dundalk FC summer camp, which is going to run across 4 weeks in July and August. The camps are aimed at boys and girls between the ages of 6 and 13, and the cost is €80 per child. As we were kind of talking with the cup there as well, just I suppose we're confirming that cup draw in the second round is against Drogheda. It's in Weavers Park and it's actually for Friday, the 19th of July as well. So,
Could I just, before you go into the golf, I just want to say rest in peace to Lily Barnacle, who passed away Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. Makes me days now because we're into Wednesday at the time we're recording this. Lily was obviously a season ticket holder, rarely missed a home match, and just wanted to wish her, and also Tommy Gorman. Obviously, Tommy's probably best known as an RT presenter, but a few dealings with Tommy, a big Sligo Rovers fan and League of Ireland fan. So just wanted to extend my condolences to their family and friends.
okay. The golf classic. So I suppose, we were chatting to the on the 9th as we were getting our burger, we were chatting to likes of Peter Halpin and even Nita and Brian Ainscough, and they were kind of saying it was like it was the first kind of thing that that obviously them as a kind of new group have done, but also that the club have kind of done in regard in a few years for bringing people together, for raising money, raising funds, raising money for the academy, obviously. It was just a great day, and again, credit to all the people that I referenced, and it did seem to be, it went down really well. Like our golf did not go down well, but like when you get chatting to other lads and stuff and afterwards and all, a bit of banter and stuff up there, like it was brilliant. And again, I know we were always kind of rattling on about it for years essentially on this podcast, but regardless of what it was, like all the team sheets were sold out, the sponsors were done, they had great prizes, good fun. I have to say, it was just, yeah, no, I have to say credit to the club. I hope it does raise a good few quid. I don't think they've confirmed what the end amount is, but again, that's going straight back into the academy. So only positive things, I have to say. So to all them boys from us as well, we definitely enjoyed it, bar maybe potentially the golf, but a great day. It was really hot as well, so they kind of had everything going for them. But yeah, credit to the club. I thought it was a brilliant day.
Yeah, no, it was, and look, I have to say, fair play. I know you're saying there hasn't been so there was due to be a meeting tonight, Tuesday. that got postponed about a week. There's still money coming in. I think it's safely going to make, I'm sure they will confirm in due course what that is, but it's safely going to make a 5-figure sum. So as a year one, because they didn't push the boat out on this too much in terms of, I think there's definitely, if you're doing this next year, there's definitely ways to make more money from it. Very simple things to do, but like as a value day, like it worked out €50 per person. You were getting your smoothie. Like if you go to the Marshes for a smoothie or something, I think it's the guts of a $5. You were getting your burger, which again, what's your burger now? Over a tenner probably, tenner anyway. You were getting your 18 holes of golf, which I think the green fee in Dundalk is somewhere between €50 and €75 if you're not with a member. And you were getting your meal at the end, which was beautiful, to be fair. So a great value day. Sorry, my voice is going here.
You're just getting emotional about the day here, man.
No, I'm
Feel
not.
it in
I'm
your
really
voice.
not. Yeah, too much singing at the weekend. But no, it was really well organized, a bit of fun. As I say, we didn't play great at all, let's be honest about it. But it was a laugh. It was a bit of crack. The weather helped. It was beautiful. But no, I have to say, like, and I was a member of the committee, and I you know, I'd be lying if I said I deserved any credit, because I did very little in terms of, but like people like PJ Dooley, Tony McBride, Seamus Bailey, Cormac Gartland, outstanding work, as well as the staff of the club. Nita was brilliant, Peter, etc. To be fair, the club rolled out the welcome mat. It was a lovely touch. Brian Ainscough came in for it. He was on the 9th tee box, behind the 9th green, greeting everyone. Everyone got their sort of 5 minutes with him. They were there all day. John Daly played in it, obviously, with a couple of players. And yeah, just it created a little bit of buzz, bit of excitement, bit of goodwill, and what, look, we're reflecting maybe a little bit on the first half of the season tonight, and it hasn't been all rosy in the garden around Oriel Park, and sometimes there's been, money concerns, etc. You shouldn't ignore that, but like, it's going to the youth academy, which, look, I think, and again, going to hear from Brian in a bit. I did say strictly golf to him when I was chatting to him for that, but we're going to sit down. He's here for a while, and I'm going to sit down with him before he goes back to America, and we can maybe touch on the bigger aspects of it. But one thing he did say to me on Thursday was that next year he wants to be a full-time academy, and that would be wonderful. So if things like last Thursday can help that, all the better.
Yeah.
But it brought money in, which is great, and I'm not belittling that, but the mood was brilliant. Like the round, like Dennis Malloy making the burgers, Jay McDermott was there. The players come up. We missed them a lot. For a lot of the players were there mingling with fans. Great for them to do it. Even I was chatting to John on Monday, and first thing I was talking to him about was the golf, and how, because again, you play golf, some people may not. 4 hours of the course, you get to know people, and he's new to it. So he was playing with Cammy Elliott, he was playing with Zach Johnson. I think Keane Mulligan played with them as well, the under-14s coach. So when you're out there for 4 hours, you get to know people, and it's sort of like an icebreaker as well. So you forget he's a new guy. Brian Ainscough as well, getting to meet so many people, so many supporters. Even Turlough O'Connor came down, Alan O'Neill was there, heroes of the past. Jack Murphy was with them, generously sponsored the par 3 close to the pin prizes. Dole were fantastic, as main sponsors, and people and businesses like that are crucial to pushing the club onwards and upwards. And look, it was one day, and I don't want to sort of harp on about, because we were for a few years saying they should be doing the likes of this, but the benefit was there, both in the what it did for a mood perspective, and also from what it brought in from a financial. And trust me, there's far more leverage if you do it next year to bring in even more. But anytime, like, look, again, I don't have the final total. I haven't actually asked or anything, but hypothetically, say this brings in 10 grand, which it should surpass. Like, you only win 110 for winning the league. So
Yeah.
any League of Ireland club can turn their nose up at that, is a good day. And I think that's a long way off. But it wasn't even about that. It was about the mood, the relationship. Like, to be fair, Alton Hare, the captain of the golf club, came down and met Brian. It was great for him to meet so many people. Sometimes you forget, because it feels this season, we're only in June, this season feels like it's been, I don't know, but 3 years long. But as I say, we've had 4 managers, or when you count in the interims, etc. 5 maybe: Brian, Burnsy, Noel King, Stephen O'Donnell, John Daly. It's been a long year in many respects, but like, Brian Ainscough is still new to this. Has he done everything perfectly? No, I wouldn't think so. But he's still getting to know people. He still needs to get to know fans. He needs to get to know, but he is US based for the most part. And days like that, and unless I know there's a large contingent of fans don't play golf or whatever, but it's something, it's a starting point, and I think it needs to be a follow-up now. So whatever, right, you're not going to do golf all the time, but come up with other ideas, like whatever that is. Like, and I'm probably harping back to previous things, but like, you've done white collar boxing in the past, you've done Strictly Come Dancing, and maybe them things have sort of had their run, but they're fun events to get people together, to get, to raise money. Like, it's not for me to decide what that is, but it shows the option there. I think, to be fair to the club, they do want to do something at the end of the year, like a sort of proper awards night, whatever that might entail. I think the Patrick Huba night last year, while not an official club event, showed there's a potential to get people together in that regard. So, look, this is what we wanted. We wanted more of these things. We wanted ways to support the club. Like, even, I thought it was fantastic, just to give them a mention, like the winners were, 4 ladies, Mary Dooley, Una Quinn, Lee Maguire. I want to forget the last one now, that's off the top of my head, and I apologise, but like, they're not the traditional, maybe I'm at Oriel Park every Friday night. Yes. And Mary spoke so eloquently in terms of, like, her dad had played for the club and what the club meant to her and her family. And obviously PJ, her husband, is a huge supporter. It gives people like that a way to support it, because maybe you love what the club stands for, you love what it does for the area, but you might not necessarily love football. And nothing wrong with that. So you need to give everyone an outlet, and it's hopefully the start of that.
Right. Well, as we said earlier, Tim did catch up with the likes of Brian Ainscough, committee member PJ Dooley, and participant Gerry Goodman, just to kind of discuss the whole day in general.
I know we're just ahead of the prize giving here, but you'd have to say a great day all round.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Everything went well. The best thing about it was all the people that put it together. It was like seamless from a standpoint of the organisation, from the lads that just, I was just amazed at all the work that they put into this to get it off the ground, because it was like so professionally run. Yeah. And the weather didn't hurt, but with Peter and Nita and the rest, and all the people that volunteered and gave it time, it was just amazing.
Yeah. From your perspective as well, like, I noticed you did a lot of time, pressured flesh and stuff today as well, but great for you to get to know people, like, around the club, the local businesses, the fans, etc. like that.
Yeah, and it was when the opportunity to get up, when Peter came up and Nita came up with the idea to do a golf tournament, and they would put it together so quickly. I said, yeah, it's a great idea. And in fairness, when they said we had 40 for the golf tournament, I'm not a golfer.
Yeah.
And I go, well, that's great, 40 people, that's great. He says, no, 40 groups, that's 160. I said, wow, because I actually thought we just had it was the first time doing it in a long time.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe there's about 40 people coming. But the fact that we had 160 people participating in the first one that Peter put together, and I guess they haven't done one in a few years, but yeah, it was great, and to meet the people, and I mean I got to meet many fans, many people that sponsor the club, and from vendors and stuff like that, but mostly our supporters were here.
And it hasn't been probably the easiest year on or off the pitch, but I mean, the mood was good around today, and that's what you want around the club, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think stuff like this needs to be done a lot and more consistently.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wish I was living over here, be out in the neighbourhood a little bit more. But the fact that I get a chance to meet all the supporters and friends and family of the club today was fantastic for me.
Would you like it to be an annual event?
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the goal. But it was also great when you see our players get the opportunity to come out and see it. And John, our new coach, comes in. He might think this is normal.
Yeah.
This is a normal thing, but I was trying to explain. I said, we've just come in, and we're sort of an unknown quantity in what's going on, and putting this event on is a big deal for us. So John came in, and him and the players. I think 2/3 of the team were here today, just hanging out and supporting it.
For him as well as a new manager, it's bonding. It's bonding.
Yeah.
Like you can spend time on the training pitch, but I don't know how much you play golf, but you do get chatting a lot. And
I think John probably is a good golfer. He looks like he probably lived in Scotland a lot, so those Scottish lads can hit it. But he's it's great for him, and it gets you outside of just your regular job of you're at the stadium, people see you, say hello, but here you let your guard down, you have a chat. I'm talking to you, so to speak. So it's great. So it was a fun day, amazing day today.
It needs more like I know golf is one maybe a year, but be it a race day, be it a poker classic, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean we're looking and tell you, I did it when we were in Kerry. We had an awards day for our academy players and the first team. I mean, I think we had 400 people at the event, and so we're hoping to add something like that for later in the year for people to come out and see what the team and what our academy players are up to and stuff like that. So and celebrate what the club is about. Yeah. But the bottom line is this was a fantastic day for me to be around all this stuff.
Yeah, and like that. Is the highlight for you just getting, as you say, to know some of the business people, know someone I know you're chatting to, like Turlock O'Connor there, etc.
And I think I must have a little dementia. I'm like saying, Turlock, in '88 when Joe Malone was here and Dan McKeely was the manager, he says, I was the manager, So sorry, Turlock, he's a better memory than me. Yeah. But so I was seeing Turlock, who was here in '88, '87 with fantastic teams, chatting about Dan McKeely's players that played here, Noel King and stuff like that, and going through all the reminiscing of what Dundalk is all about. I'm getting a history lesson. Yeah.
I know you're sitting with some of the committee there, and I don't want to leave anyone out, but PJ Dooley and Seamus Bailey, for me, put in tremendous work, and it should be acknowledged.
Yeah, I mean, again, I got to see these people only briefly in my 6 months here, and seeing the amount of effort and time that they've put in, both of those men put into today's event, I couldn't repay them enough. I mean, and the fact that they're already saying, hey, you've got to get this in the calendar for next year and stuff, and I was like, well, you guys are the ones that made this it was seamless today. It was so professionally run. A fantastic environment, and I couldn't have been a better day. Yeah. I mean, I'm really, really happy with it.
A great day here, it's fair to say. 40 teams, I think, went out, and a lot of money raised for the academy. You'd have to say great success.
Absolutely fabulous, and really a wonderful thing to be involved in, with the love of my life, Dundalk FC, and the second love of my life, Dundalk Golf Club.
Yeah.
Lovely to see the two local institutions coming together and supporting each other fabulously.
There's a lovely graphic out there. Dundalk Golf Club welcomes Dundalk FC and that, but it couldn't have went better today, really, when you factor everything in, the weather, the course in Great Neck. The
good Lord was very good to us to keep the weather right. That's so important.
Yeah.
But what's more important is that the Dundalk Football Club supporters get a chance to support the club and help our new owner and get the place flying again.
Yeah. The committee that was put together, you were a big part of it.
I was a part of it.
There was other people as well, don't get me wrong, but great work, I think, by a lot of
work by a lot of people, and by the staff in the football club were fantastic. The backup of the burgers, unbelievable, man. And Dole with their Smoothies was wonderful. Everything just was so supportive.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
At this moment in time, we haven't judged winners or that, but it's a fun format. It's a good day. It's about look, the winners will be the winners, but the event itself was the major
The event
success.
went well. The golf club put on lovely food, etc. The course was magnificent as always. And as I say, hopefully we can renew it again next year and keep it going and make it even bigger.
You were in the scorer's hut most of the day, but I think there was a good mood around the place, wasn't there?
It was a great mood and a great mood of partnership, which for me is fantastic.
Yeah.
And to come and get the two Dundalks working really well together is fantastic.
Yeah. You'd like to think this can become an annual event now.
An annual and a bigger event, I hope.
Yeah, brilliant. You were referencing there, I think the last Golf Classic was roughly 15 years ago. We won't say what year exactly, but you were the winner of the last one and you played today as well. So it's great to see these sort of events back for the club, isn't it?
Absolutely. But this one was so well organised by, I know PJ Dooley was one of them, I think Seamus Bailey, and there was other people. And it's a credit to them because it was so well organised and so well run.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed playing. Yes, 15 years ago, our team was Tony O'Connor, Tony Clark, a chap called Charlie Smith, who a lot of people would know, who passed away a couple of years ago, and myself. And we actually won by about 5 or 6 shots. We just played very well on the day. And it was a big field, but it's great to see it revived again, especially when it's for the youth.
Yeah.
And it's marvellous, I think.
And of course, you mentioned youth, but you have your granddaughter as well.
Granddaughter Emma's been playing from under 12, and now she's one of the under 19 goalkeepers. Yeah. And so she loves the football, loves the club.
Yeah.
So it's great. And sure, I'm going to Oriel Park from I was 6 or 7. Yeah. I'm a great supporter.
And your son Paul obviously was in it today, so two Goodman teams in the event.
Yes, absolutely. And and Barry would have been here as well if he hadn't been able to.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, Barry couldn't wait to get up.
yeah. But it shows the potential of. I'd like to think this could be an annual event. I think everyone does, but not just golf. It can be other things, and it creates a good feel.
I think an annual golf classic for the academy is important, so that the locals realise that the money is going in for the children, to bring them through.
Yeah,
that's very important.
Really well supported. You've seen the amount of sponsors here today.
Absolutely,
160, I think, teed off in it. So, it was a great day, and weather as well, which is one thing you can't plan for.
Like 40 teams was unbelievable, and it was so well run. But it's a great cause, because the youth are the future footballers of the tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let it be golfers, footballers, and it's brilliant. And I believe our centre forward, Jamie Gullen, is a +2 handicap golfer. So the other young lads can aspire to be good golfers as well as good footballers.
Yeah, exactly. But just finally for me, we come back on Friday, next Friday, with the Waterford game. Be great to see another win just after the break to go with the one that came before.
Absolutely, and I have to say, John Daly seems to be putting his mark on the team already. There's a far better structure to the team, in my opinion. I'm not an expert, and if it was squash I might have a better idea, but I like what I see. And I believe he's a great worker and has great diligence, and that's what we need.
Right, but before we wrapped up, we did get a question in from Austin Walker that just said he wanted to have an open conversation about realistic ways the league could improve, to make it would make for an interesting listen. It seems like a lot of talent is leaving the league for little to no transfer fees. Another one is the quality of production of LOI grounds as the league attendances grow. I think it's definitely a question that we can go to further detail in on another day, but league is growing, and I think they're talking about simple things they need to do is, in my opinion, is obviously stadia, so infrastructure and academies and good contracts for young lads. But whether it's the FAI, the government together, they need to be given more opportunities to full-time coaches to Mick or John that wants to grow up and wants nothing more than to be a coach, kind of like what you can do in the GAA. There's something like 11 full-time academy coaches in this country, let alone um full-time workers or anything like that. Like, I know the GA have a lot more, and I think things like that will help money actually going into proper coaching. And then actually the stadia, people, it shows that there is a demand for it. But I think Bows were a perfect example. Like, they're selling out every week. They've only 2 or 3,000 there because of the kind of infrastructure issues. But like, there is a demand for it because I think people are falling away from the Premier League and stuff like that now, and there is a bit more bite, and I think marketing and everything, to be fair to the League of Ireland, has helped. But I think it's just such a big conversation, to be fair. But I think if they start from the bottom, things can only get better in that sense, in regard and having actual full-time coaches with guys, getting guys on actual contracts that have kind of, that there isn't I know Damien Duff, even though he did sell one for a release clause, he doesn't want any Shelbourne players to have a release clause, that if they want them, people bid decent money, and I think that will only improve the league as well. But again, that's another 2-hour conversation for another day.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. Yeah, there's probably too much going to there at the end of a podcast. That it is an important conversation, don't get me wrong, but yeah, maybe we'll deal with that another week on a when a bit more time. I agree. We need to value ourselves more. I've always felt this, that, like, in theory, was it Gavin Malloy, was it 75 grand he went for?
Yeah, well, sterling, so probably 100,000 euro. Like.
But and ironically, right, that's decent money.
Mm-hmm.
But it's decent money by League of Ireland standards.
Yeah.
I think if you're just, again, referencing the Euros, like Slovenia were playing tonight, a country half our population. I'd love to see what one of their players, and I don't mean they're international players, but one of their domestic players, if he was moving abroad, what they would fetch. And again, I need to do a bit of research on it, but I'm pretty sure it would be more. I think we've undervalued. Don't think agents have necessarily helped the situation at times either, because, and look, it makes sense for them to be able to get them out cheap and all that, and it probably makes sense for the player. Definitely doesn't protect the club. But yeah, there's a very wide conversation needed about the whole setup. Again, I have a young fellow myself, and he's not getting to play matches at the moment because there's too many kids, and they've divided up. And how is that helping? I'm not saying he'll ever have the talent necessarily to play at League of Ireland, international, whatever level, but like anything, when you're
all contact, he's not getting enough, and lots of kids aren't. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Goes through, and I would have discussed this. I was chatting briefly to Brian Ainscough the other day. It's like anything. If I want to play guitar, the more times I pick it up, in theory, the better I should be. If I want to learn how to drive, you have to get behind the wheel, and the more confidence you get, in theory, the better you get. I know, not an exact science, but like anything, the more you do it, the better in theory you should be. And if we're denying young lads game time, it's not good. It's not good, and it doesn't. And I think you might have given the example before, but it was a Ukrainian family come over and they were training 4 or 5 nights a week or something over there, and one here and all this stuff. So we need to look at that. Like, there's like, you look at, and it's probably pertinent because the Euros is on at the moment, and obviously, look, we all wish Ireland was there. But you see countries like, and ironically, okay, maybe they didn't have the best tournament this time, but you see countries like Croatia, similar populations to us. Belgium's not that, far off us in terms of population. Slovenia has 2 million people, and they've just gone through tonight. So it needs, but it's a wide conversation. I think the government need to get involved and help. But look, I should say as well done to Louth GAA, and best luck against Donegal as well, because that comes into the conversation as well, that we are a GAA country. probably gets a little bit more support, but equally you can't begrudge them that little bit of success. But in general, the facilities, if you just take Dundalk as an example, the facilities for a youngster to play sport or participate in sport, whatever that sport might be, could be a lot better.
Yeah. Right, before we go, we're going to bring you the underage roundup in association with Gerry McNamee Consultants, and I'll actually read it tonight to give your voice a rest before you collapse, boy. So on Saturday, the men's 20s lost 4-2 away to Derry City, while the men's 17s lost 1-0 at home to the Candy Stripes. On Sunday, the women's 19s also lost 3-1 at home to Shamrock Rovers, but the men's 14s had a 3-0 win over Drogheda at Oriel Park, courtesy of goals from Luke Cullen, Josh Weldon and Killian Hughes. This Sunday, the women's 19s are away to Shells at 2, while the men's under 14s are away to Derry City at the same time. So we will leave it there for this week. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we look forward to hopefully getting another 3 points on the board. We wanted to thank main sponsors, the unit, as well as our associate sponsors, Player Fit, Gerry McNamee Consultants and Malone Financial Services. And as always, we want to thank Mullins on the Castledown Road for sponsoring our YouTube, if you do watch it via that. Right, we'll talk to you next week.
Look how the stars turn on.